With the Nintendo Wii U and the Nintendo 3DS eShops closing, you start to get this thing called FOMO, the fear of missing out, where a lot of these games were obviously readily available on digital storefronts, very easy to access. By closing these storefronts, you no longer have that easy access. We've of course talked about the eShop exclusive titles, but what ends up happening with this is, of course, it doesn't just impact the eShop games. Yes, the eShop only titles are lost to the sands of time, but when it comes to physical goods and collecting the games themselves, the prices of these games start to go up because now you no longer have that digital storefront in order to access these games whenever you wanted to buy them. Now, a lot of developers and companies did sort of heavily discount games on the storefront before the official closure. And of course, we always have emulation to talk about when it comes to these things, which I'm a big fan of. If you can emulate it, do it. It's very easy to emulate 3DS and Wii U stuff. It's very easy to hack a Wii U or a 3DS system as well. Please seek out the methods in order to do those. But if for whatever reason you don't want to, or you want the physical stuff, I thought it'd be fun to take a look at the current market for Wii U and 3DS games, kind of look at the trajectory levels and talk about where I think these are actually going to end up as far as peak game prices are concerned. Is this going to be something like the Sega Saturn, or is this just a rush because of the fear of missing out, and what ends up happening is the prices end up going down? Let's take a look at the Wii U first. Now, you have to remember, the one thing with the Wii U and the prices, we'll be using price charting. The Wii U did not sell a lot. Okay, there's only 13 million or so Wii U's in the marketplace. So because of that, production levels of games was obviously very, very low. You know, that's what happens with some of these systems, is that the production levels of the games are very low, and that's why the prices of them are very high. Now, there is, of course, supply and demand, and if the demand isn't there, it doesn't necessarily matter what the supply is. Now, looking at the average loose price for all licensed non-variant Wii U games, you could see there has been some increases in March of 2022 when the announcement was starting to get headway, and you can see there's been a steady incline. Now, I feel like this is a bit skewed because this is obviously, you know, when the prices were at their maximum, but for a while, Wii U games pretty much just stood pat. They weren't really moving around. When you start to look at the popular Wii U games, you could definitely see an increase in the prices of these games. Now, all of this information is sourced off of things like eBay sales. So these are completed, sold listings. Now, there are some things, you know, it's not a perfect system or anything like that, but it is good enough to sort of figure out, you know, what's going to end up happening with this. You can see that the loose prices have stayed steady at about $91, which is, I don't know, that seems very high for a loose Twilight Princess HD, but the complete prices going up about $12, and you can see the trajectory is going upward. Do I think this trajectory will continue to go upward for this game? I think there's potential. This is a game that has not released on other platforms yet as far as the HD version is concerned. So you have that sort of feeling that, well, if I want to play the best looking and best running game, at least on a physical format, I have to have this version of the game. Another game worth looking at is, of course, Xenoblade Chronicles X, a very technically demanding game on the Wii U that you could see the price has shot up. We were going to $53 to $83, a large increase, and you can see the overall prices and stuff here. You know, they're going up overall. Once again, this was a game that you could either buy physically or you could access it via the Nintendo Wii U's eShop in order to purchase the game. And by taking that away from people, there is that sort of fear of missing out. Xenoblade Chronicles, once again, wasn't a game that probably got a huge print run in terms of how many copies released because software didn't sell all that great. If it wasn't Mario Kart 8 or it wasn't Super Mario Brothers 3D World, games didn't really sell, you know, or Splatoon, I guess you could say. Games didn't sell all that great on the Nintendo Wii U. Now, as far as how I see things going in the future, I honestly think that Wii U prices will continue to ascend. When you look at even stuff on this list here, you can see kind of what they're going for right now. We do have some heavy hitters. When we look at complete and box pricing, Obviously, systems are going to be towards the top, but you have some random games in there, like your oddities, the Book of Unwritten Tales 2, your Skylanders, Swap Force Dark Edition, but even like Game & Wario or Day of the Sky Soldier. God, that was a bad game. I honestly feel like you're going to see the increase in Wii U games for a while, because this is actually stuff that is limited in terms of print copies. And when you have a bunch of people trying to maybe complete a complete set or something like that, or just seeking out these games and they don't want to go through the mindset of hacking their Wii U or whatever the case may be, this is what's going to, really start to catch on the secondary market. Do I think it's going to reach like Sega Saturn levels and stuff like that? It has potential to, but I don't necessarily think it will, just because it's relatively easy to hack this system and it's cheap to do it. It's to the point of where I think anyone can do it with the Wii U, and with the Sega Saturn, it was a little bit trickier. Now, you do have the whole fact that emulating some of these games is difficult because of the fact that they rely on the gamepad, and you'd be 100% correct. It's definitely tough to say, but you could see here, like, even these middle ground games, like Angry Birds, Amazing Spider-Man for $35, Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune at $40, Tekken Tag Tournament 2, Sonic Lost World. Like, there's definitely potential for this to be very expensive, especially within the next 5 years. Where it goes beyond that, who's to really say? But let's take a look at the Nintendo 3DS next. So for the Nintendo 3DS, you would think that, oh, well, RGT is just going to say, it's sold better, it's very easy to emulate, this is not going to go up anything crazy, but you would be completely wrong with that assessment. You could just look here at the median chart and once again see a situation similar to the Wii U, but we see a starker rise in terms of basically people wanting to get these things. September of 2022, it started to really catch on, and it's been steady and then increasing once again. Now, why would that be? Because like I said, this is a simple system to emulate. Like, my mini PC emulates these games great, scales them up to 4K resolution. It's a really fun way to play it. There's a whole level of nostalgia with this system. There's a whole level of just, I loved playing my 3DS that the Wii U will never ever have for a lot of people. You could see here, these are some of the biggest shakers and movers, or the biggest price changes. And you can see, there's some stuff going on here. A lot of the systems seem to be very, well sought after, but like random stuff. Mario Golf World Tour. Look at this huge increase. We're talking, up to $9, $10 almost, $10 for a new price of this version of the game. It's craziness. Like, this game was obviously not very desired throughout the years. Like, it's a Mario game, it's gonna hold some sort of value, but this is a huge increase in price. And when you start to see these huge increases in pricing on games that you don't think are going to be very popular, that's where you start to get, this whole mindset of, I'm gonna miss out on these games. These games are gonna be the popular games. If you compare it to something like the Nintendo DS and DS game prices, like, DS games are very expensive. Look at this. Metroid Prime Federation Force, one of the worst games I ever played, up $13, $88 for a complete copy of this. And it's skyrocketing. It's absolutely skyrocketing. People were sitting there collecting the Wii U for the short term. That, I don't know about that. I think the Wii U is going to be your long-term moneymaker if you're doing this for money, which, I don't know, that's kind of weird, but who knows, maybe it'll work out for you. But if you want that short-term cash, the 3DS was where it was at. Like, this is craziness. This game was sat there, nobody cared about it, nobody wanted it, and then all of a sudden, everybody wants it. Everybody's buying it. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of JRPG stuff on here, the more niche games, Style Savvy and stuff. But there's a lot of heavy hitter games that sold pretty decently on the system, or at least had a good amount of print copies that are going for high prices, and everything is trajectorying and going upwards with this. It's going up very high, and I think your RPGs, your stuff like your Shin Megami Tenseis and stuff like that. Like, look at your Shin Megami Tenseis. They're already going up in price. You know, the complete price went down a little bit, but give it a little bit of time. I'm telling you, overall, you're seeing these games increase in price. And I think this is going to be something that's going to be felt in the short term and into the long term. The whole thing about video game prices, it really boils down to, you know, whether or not people are wanting to seek out these games. You know, a game like Earthbound isn't expensive because it's a rare game, because it's not really a rare game in the grand scheme of things. This isn't a game that got, you know, a couple thousand print run. This game got over 100,000 copies that were printed. At least that's what our guesstimation is when it comes to the print run of the game and the information that's out there. So even just taking that at the bare minimum of 100,000, like, that's a lot of copies. It's about the desirability, though. Do I want to sell this game from my collection, or do I want to hold on to it? And that's what starts to drive the prices up of other games in general, because people see this and they're like, whoa, well, wait a minute now. This game that nobody wanted is selling great and people are paying high prices for it. Maybe my other games are worth more. All it takes is for one person to pay one price for something in an open setting to sort of completely transform the marketplace and make it more of a seller's market than a buyer's market. And with the Nintendo 3DS, I think in the short term, things are going to get absolutely crazy. When I say short term, I mean between now and like a year or two. You're going to see these games marked up heavily at conventions, and just looking at the DS and how things have been like with that system, that's all the proof that you need. That's all because DS games are crazy right now, and it's one of the easiest systems to emulate. So why wouldn't 3DS games also be like this? Look, I'm all for emulation. I'm all for mating these games because they're not readily available to buy. But if you are a collector, be careful out there. Things are going to get crazy. Things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. And I think these prices are going to continue to skyrocket. In the short term, I think the 3DS is going to be your winner. In the long term, though, keep your eye out on the Wii U. I think that has potential to do some serious numbers in the future, and maybe, just maybe, even be some Sega Saturn style level of game prices for common stuff. But let me know what you think of this in the comments section down below. Is my analysis correct? Is it incorrect? And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. I did not feel like being on camera today because I've been up throwing up. I got sick again last night. Freaking great, man. I love it. I love it. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. I love all you guys. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.